Welcome back to another episode of Multifamily AP 360. And today's our guest is Tim Mai from Hero Wealth Fund. Welcome, Tim.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm super excited.
Sure, likewise. Thank you. And little bit about Tim. Tim Mai is a real estate fund manager and entrepreneur based in Houston, Texas. Tim has acquired and exited over 50 million worth of real estate and is currently a partner both GP and LP in over 3,800 multifamily units. He also founded Hero Wealth Fund, working with passive investors to help them achieve financial goals. So with that, Tim, you want to add anything?
It's been a long journey, so just real quick, so that way, especially if you're beginning, those numbers sounds like it's big numbers. I've been in real estate for 22 years now. So relatively speaking, it's very small numbers if you're looking at 22 years. Jump right into the mistake that I made for the first 20 years of my real estate business.
Why you get into real estate? How you get into real estate?
And start there. So yeah, if you ever heard of the term Vietnamese boat people, so what it means is that, see, after the war, the Vietnam War ended in 1975 and the communist government took over, a lot of people escaped out of the country, especially boys. Because back then, when a boy turns 18, it's automatic draft into communist government military. And so in 1986, my older brother turned 18. I was 11 years old at that time. And my parents didn't want him to stay in the country, to him to be able to get out of the country, come to America. He didn't want to go alone, so he asked if I want to come along. And I was like, sure, I'll come along. Little kid, I didn't know any better. Yeah, so we were able to escape out of Vietnam, and we spent a year in the refugee camps. And then we made it here to Houston, Texas in 1987. So by that time, I was 12 years old. He was 19. Two boys on the street, no parent. We used to live in Section 8 housing. Now, like properties that we go look at now, they were just like the apartment complex I used to live at back then. The low ceiling and like the ones that were built in the 70s. And anyways, we grew up. I was able to, during college, I got recruited by an IT company. This is during the dot-com days. When I was working at the IT firm, I thought I had it made. I achieved my American dream, the dream that my parents had for us to come to America, get well educated, and get a good job. And so here I am. I thought I got it made, and then the dot-com bust came along. They went bankrupt and laid everyone off. So that was 2002. So I was forced to decide what am I going to do next. And at that time, IT companies were pretty hard. I decided to go and explore. And I spent a lot of time in bookstores, Barnes and Nobles back then. Read as much as I could about business and real estate. And the book was one of the books that got me started further into real estate. And then another by Robert G. Allen called Nothing Down, which allows me to learn how to do real estate with no money down, because at the time I didn't have any money. So that was 2002. Since 2002, I've done a lot of flipping, like fix and flip houses, wholesaling, rentals, a lot of land as well. So I spent 20 years of my real estate career in the single family home space. Looking back now, I so wish that I had gone straight over to multifamily and commercial real estate. That was the biggest mistake of my life. And I've learned a ton for sure. But here's what got me into this multifamily commercial real estate. I was talking to a friend of mine. You probably know him, Javier Hinojo, chit-chatting. And he said, yeah, I used to do fix and flip also. These days, each deal that I do adds at least $1 million to my net worth. My first light bulb moment came on. It's like, I don't make anywhere near that amount with these little fix and flip houses. Yeah, so that got me interested. Javier and I started a group called Teenagers, because at that time, his daughter was 16, my son was 17. We decided to start a group called the Teen Millionaire Challenge, teach young people how to skip the single family, go straight to multifamily. And through that program, it was a year-long program. Through that program, they underwritten and made offers on over $1 billion worth of multifamily during that program. So that was the second light bulb moment that came on for me. Was, wow, if these kids can do it, I can do it. The program was in from July 2021 to July 2022. And in April 2022 was when I decided, you know what? I'm going to go into multifamily. I'm going to go all in on it. And here I am, 2 years later, the 3,800 units. I started out as a passive investor, so I can learn it from the inside out. And then I also got, into co-GPs and fund of funds. So along the way, I want to specialize in capital raising because that was the part of the business that, number one, I felt matched my skill set the most. But even more importantly, it allowed me to get into deals so much faster than if I go the traditional route of like sourcing the deals myself. And so I know that's a long, long intro to my journey, but
Yeah, sure. Thank you for sharing that. And couple of follow-up questions. So your parents are here now?
they both my whole family are here now. My dad passed away 12 years ago, but my mom's still alive. She's here in Houston.
Awesome. Good. It's like it's not mistake, right? It's all about awareness, right? So if you are aware about multifamily in 2002, you might have, jumped directly into multifamily, right? So it's all about
Yep.
awareness and, surrounding with, right kind of people, right? So what are
Yep.
some lessons learned from, investing into real estate, like single families or fixer upper or, land, all this stuff?
Right. Yeah, so definitely. So I mean, number one, caught a mistake, but really it was my limiting beliefs more than anything else. I had a mental belief that, hey, I don't have the experience, I don't have the money, I don't have the connections, and so I'll start with houses because that's easy. Most people, a lot of people own a house, right? So I started there. The biggest lesson would be just like wherever you think that where you're comfortable at, that's just where your limitation is. That's just where your limiting belief is. Yeah, you can get into any type of deals you want, like any level you want. Now I'm not afraid. If I drive by, like let's say a big piece of land, I'm not afraid to say, hey, I can be a developer to build out a whole subdivision here. Like that's mind blowing to me. 20 years ago, there's no way I could have like imagined saying those things or having the belief that that's possible for me. So I've been working with my kids a lot. Whenever we drive around and we see a nice building, we're like, hey, we could have built one of those, or we can build one of those, or we can develop that. And yeah, so that was a huge mistake, well, learning lesson for me. And then and then the other big one, which then I utilize a lot now that I'm here in the multifamily space, is building a community. As back in the fix and flip business, in order for me to, because I was doing pretty high volume, so in order for me to be able to buy a lot of houses, I need to be able to build relationship with passive investors, and raising money from passive investors, or they call them private lenders, raising money from private lenders to buy those houses. And so I understood a lot about like, building a community where people see me as an authority, as a subject matter expert. So when I got over here in the multifamily space, that's the first thing I did was built a community. So I got into the business in June of 22, May 1st of 22, I started my Facebook group. June of 2022, I started my weekly virtual meetup, and then I've done virtual summits, I've done in-person summit to stand out as a leader in the community. And that lesson has helped me so much. I've grown so much in the last 2 years of being in this industry.
Thank you for sharing that, and also thank you for building that community, capital, wealth fund group, right?
Yeah.
Hero Wealth Fund Group. Thank you for that, and also impacting positively passive investors and also capitalizers. And earlier you mentioned like fastest way to get the results. That is the reason you choose like capital raising side. So can you elaborate on that part?
Yeah, so coming to this industry, I realized that there's a lot of different aspects to the business that you can do. You can focus on acquisitions, which is where you're out there building relationship with brokers, right? Or off market from sellers, even learn to do underwriting, walk the property, get on the contract. So that's one part of the business. The another part of the business is you can come in as you can just focus on capital raising and partner up with the operators who are out there finding these deals and managing these deals. If you are the operator sourcing the deals yourself, you can easily go 6 to 12 months before you get your first deal. As a capital raiser, on the other hand, because you are partnering up with operators who already found a deal and all you're doing is coming in to help with the capital part of it. And I'm using capital raiser as a loose term here. You are coming in, whether it's as a co-GP, so you are actually partnering in on the deal, or as a fund of funds, which you're raising money for your funds and your fund invests in the deal. So I want to clarify that. Capital allocator, I'll use that term for now. As a capital allocator, because I'm focusing on the capital side of it, I can very easily partner up with an operator that already found a deal, that already put up earnest money, that already done all the due diligence, got all the loans in place, right? The business plan in place. Now I get to shortcut through all of that time that it took them to get a deal. And I can, if I wanted to, like, for example, if I'm brand new and I want to get into a deal this week, my very first week in the business, all I have to do is find operators that have a deal that they're raising money for, they're closing on, and they can help. They need help, with fund of funds to come in and raise for them. I can come in like that. I didn't have to go through, months of the legwork and potentially the deal never, work. And so, so I absolutely love the capital side of the business. Highly recommend anyone, especially if you're starting new in the business, either as a co-GP or as a fund of funds manager.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, that's a good way to start, very quickest way. And also, like you mentioned it, if you want to start like an acquisition side, like you mentioned, 6 to 12 months. In the current market, it may take even more than 12 months also, right? So a
Yeah.
lot of challenges. So yeah, thank you. And when you're starting from capital raising side, what kind of challenges you faced and how did you overcome?
Of course, every part of the business has its own challenges. We all know that, right? Because, as a fund manager, capital raiser, capital allocator, your specialty is building relationship with passive investors and being able to gain their know, like, and trust, so that way they would invest with you. So that in itself is a challenge. And so to overcome that, like your first raise, a lot of people don't realize this, but you have people in your phone here, in your pocketbook, that know, like, and trust you already. A lot of us, we don't realize that as an adult, I bet for at least 80% of adults have an absolute minimum is $1 million in their phone book from passive investors. At least $1 million. Most people I've talked to have at least $10 million in their phone book. Think about, $1 million is just 10 people with $100,000 to invest. 10 million is just 100 people with $100,000 to invest, or it could be, two people with $5 million each, right? I recommend to always start there with your personal network. And then outside of our phone, a lot of us, we have Facebook account, LinkedIn account. And so we have another, few thousand people there. And so just between our phone, our social media account, that's easily, $10 million there. From passive investors. And so we know that the people are there in our contacts. Now, the second challenge would be then, how do we get to know that we are now doing real estate? How do we get them to know that, hey, we're someone that they should listen to? The way that I went about it was I interview of the expert in the industry, just like what what you've been doing too. You started your virtual summits and now your podcast. It's the same thing. So by interviewing other expert in the industry, and you're inviting your people from your phone. I'm like so old school. Some of your young people have no clue what a phone book is. No, you invite people within your network to listen into these interviews that expose them to the business. And then, I also started the Facebook group, which then allows me to invite all of my friends and connection to my Facebook group. Now, if they don't join the group, then I know that they're probably not interested in this topic. But if they do join the group, that tells me that they are interested in this topic. And so that's another way for me to kind of filter out, like, who on my list that's interested, that's not, who's joining my Facebook group, who's coming on my interview, listening to the interview. And yeah, so for your first, for your first 10 million, it's really like you can't just work that off of your, your within your circle. I mean, at a minimum, your first million, you can just work that within your circle. And then beyond that, once you run out of friends and family and runs out of, people that are closely connected to you, then doing these kind of podcasts, like right now I'm being a guest on your show. So that gives me exposure to your audience. So that's another strategy. This week I am on, like, including yours, like 4 podcasts. And and so it helps bring more exposure out. And there's a lot of, real estate podcasts out, like thousands of real estate podcasts out there
Yeah.
that, you can reach out and reach out and, like, be a guest on other people's shows and, build your reputation, build your brand, and attract more investors that way.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. You cover one aspect, like, building credibility and, trust with investors. Other side is like, you need to find right deals. So how do you find and what kind of due diligence you perform on sponsor, identifying sponsors?
Yeah. So I'll share what my buy box is, and I recommend that, especially if you're new, you might want to follow a similar buy box. And I got this idea from another fund manager. His name is Alex Kohodenko. He was one of my first deals that I invested as an LP in, and at that time, his fund specifically target operators with $1 billion plus AUM, asset under management. And so I was like, wow, if these guys that he's partnering with and investing with have over $1 billion, in assets, like, they probably have a lot of experience, they have a proven track record. And so I feel much safer investing with them than I would with someone who's brand new in the business, right? And so when I started, my own fund, I adopted that same kind of mindset. I'm looking for operators who are proven. What does that mean? That means that, they have gone full cycle on at least 5 deals. They've been in business for at least 5 years. They haven't had any foreclosures. Preferably they haven't had any capital call, but even if they did, I'm willing to, take a look as to what happened, because in this market, between, the interest rate that went up and the insurance went up and property taxes went up, a lot of operators, have capital call. And so I'm not afraid that they have capital calls. I just want to see, like, what happened with that deal. So before I even look at a deal, I'm vetting the operators first. Making sure that they're proven, making sure that they know how to navigate through different real estate market. Most of the operators that I have partnered with and invested with so far, they have around 500 million plus in asset under management, and so I feel pretty good about those type of operators. And then so that's at the operator level. And then at the deal level, I see that, class Bs are pretty safe. It's like in that middle. If the market tanks and the class A people wants to downgrade, they'll downgrade to B. If the market's doing well and the class C people want to upgrade, they'll upgrade to class B. And so, like, class B is my most preferred multifamily class. Now, I have done class A, I've done class C, but I look at those more carefully, making sure that, that we bought very well, we bought at a big discount, and we have lots of reserves. But yeah, class B is my favorite. And then third, because I live here in Houston for most of my life now, 30 something years, I like Houston a lot. I like Texas a lot in general, Texas Triangle. So Houston, Dallas, Austin, San Antonio. How I like some of the criterias. My team created a scorecard. It has, I think it's like around 15 different items that we look for from the operators, from the deals, also from the financing. And then we assign a score to each of those criterias. And then so if it has, 90 or more score, like 90 plus scores, we know for sure that's, a deal we'll go into. If it has between 70 to 90, we'll take a look further deeper. If it has less than 70, we don't even look at the deal. Yeah, we have a scoring system that we go by now.
Thank you very much. So would you share any of your best real estate investing experience so far?
I mean, I've been through a lot. So I've been through 2008 market as well, and I lost over $3 million in that market. So I learned a lot along the way. My best experience really has been, in this multifamily industry here. There's so many things I love about this industry. Number one, the people, everyone in this industry, because it's such a team sport in this industry, it kind of forced everyone to play nice with each other and play as a team, right? Unlike the single family homes where I can do the whole deal myself. Like I don't need anybody. The deals are small. So I love the team sports, team collaboration aspect of this business. And then I also love that everyone who are in this industry, very high caliber. It doesn't matter who you are in this industry, you come in from a higher caliber than in the single family home. I've been enjoying this a lot. And yeah, like I said, focusing on, the capital side, that's been a really good experience. The only thing that I don't like about this industry is that, it does take a long time to build, but once it's built, it's like, because everything we do here, we are really building our future 5 years. Let's say we go and work at McDonald's, work that day and you get paid that week or something like that, right? Or like you
Yeah,
drive Uber, you work that day, you get paid that day, but it doesn't have any future. Versus in this business, we work today, we get to pay a little bit, but
yeah,
bulk of what we get paid on is 5 years from now. But I don't like that as much. But I do like the fact 5 years from now, like each deal that we do, easily add $1 million to our net worth, and so that part of it.
yeah. It's a slow game, marathon, so you need to play for
Yep.
long term, right? Awesome.
Yep.
Thank you. So, would you also share any challenging experience?
In 2008, when the market tanked, I didn't know what to do. At that time I had 30 houses in different stages of construction, some that I just bought, some that are in construction, some that was for sale. And like overnight, there were no buyers for them because no one could get financing. Yeah, so I had to, and I had all these loans out on all of these properties. I was like, I didn't even know to reach out to other people for help. I just put my head in and try to fix everything. If looking back now, if I had get help sooner, I probably would have navigate through that market a lot easier. And then because I was so busy dealing with my own problems, I didn't get to take advantage of the market when it turned in 2009, 10, 11. I was just so busy fixing and trying to minimize my loss. And so now, here in 2024, even though it's not exactly like 2008, but we're in a down cycle right now, right? And a lot of operators are going to be in trouble, and so those guys are going to they're going to be busy fixing their problems. But for those of us who are not in trouble, like or even if we are in trouble, we want to do what Warren Buffett says, which is invest when there's blood in the streets, even when it's your own blood. Right. So whether you're in trouble or not right now, you want to prepare yourself to take advantage of this market. Because gosh, can you imagine if we had, bought properties back in 2010, 2011, 12 and held on to it, right?
Yeah,
Exactly. Easily,
yeah,
easily. So it's going to be happening now, in the next 5, 10 years. Like all the properties that we're buying in the next couple of years, we can retire from those in 10 years from now.
yeah. Sure. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. So, what's your plan for next 2 to 5 years?
Buy as much, get into as much deals as we can, so yeah, it's because it is a more challenging market, a lot of people are fearful, and I'm expecting that there will be more bad news in the media, so there will be even more people being fearful of this industry, so raising money is going to be harder. However, if we just stick to it, figure out how can we lower our expenses so that way we can survive through this market, ramp up our marketing so that way we can attract more passive investors, especially the ones that were not hurt by this market, right? Because some people, their money is stuck in deals, some people they lost money in deals, but there's a pool of investors out there that perhaps never invested in any deal, so they don't have all the pain, they don't have all the issues and the baggage, right, that comes along with the existing investors. And so So I'm looking to attract more of those people as well. I know that I've been working many late nights. And so I this is the time that I'll have to work much much harder than I ever worked. 5 years from now, 10 years from now, looking back, I'm gonna be so thankful that I put in the hard work right now, so that way I can acquire as many assets as I can. Because coming out of this market, look, real estate it works similar to stocks, right? Up and down, up and down. And so when you're in down market, don't be afraid because it's going to go up. Like it doesn't we have never been in a real estate market where it only goes down and never got back up. Like that hasn't existed in the US before. So then take advantage of it now while it's down, so that way we can ride the trend when it does come around.
Thank you. So, any personal habits that are helping you to be successful?
I would say consistency, especially force yourself to be consistent. I host my weekly podcast or virtual meetup every Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern. And so because it's scheduled the same, like the same time every single week, and I do it live to a live audience, so I can't can't really hide from it. And I can't reschedule it because then they'll mess it up for them. It's a system that almost like an accountability system, right? That I created for myself that forced me to show up every single week. Like no matter how busy I am, I've done the show. I've had COVID a few times, and I've had to host the show twice already while I have COVID. On one of the shows I did, my whole show goes for 2 hours. And so I asked one of my friends, hey, can you help me with the second hour? I'll have enough energy to do the first hour, but then I'll need to get off and then you take it over from there. And so I took a nap before the show, give me energy to get on, do the interview, and then get off. Find ways to be consistent, whether it's some type of accountability system like what I just described, or accountability partner or something. Like the more consistent you are, like if you're consistent and in this business, it's very hard to go wrong. The people in the industry also, they see that you're consistent, and so that's how you gain more trust.
Thank you. Any learnings that impacted your life or your business?
Just being consistent is a really big one. Having a passion for something is a really big one. So I love working with young people and teaching them entrepreneurship, teaching them real estate. So I'm actually creating a regulation crowdfunding fund for my group of Teen Millionaire Challenge students to be a part of. Doing those things, it's a side project, but it inspires me. So it keeps me going in my main business. And yeah, so make sure that you stay empowered, make sure that you inspired, and yeah, because business is hard. Like it's not, we're all gonna go through many ups and downs, many sleepless nights. Something that you are passionate about, having something that you're inspired by, help.
And any books that impacted your life?
Yeah, so Rich Dad Poor Dad's a really big one for me because it got me in this whole journey. I lately, gentleman that's an influencer right now, Alex Hamosi. He has a couple books out right now. I love his content. He's a like no BS, no fluff kind of guy. So in addition to reading his books, I also watch a lot of his YouTube videos. YouTube is like my number one content like form of learning. Lots of YouTube videos, and I learn a lot through that. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, even I do listen his podcast episodes while driving my
Yeah.
kids. How can listeners can connect with you, Tim?
Yeah, so the best way to connect with me is getting involved in my weekly capital raising party. That's our weekly virtual meetup I mentioned earlier. So go to capitalraisingparty.com. It'll take you there. And then once you like register for that, you'll get information about everything else that we do, our Facebook group, the live events that we do, things like that.
Tim, thank you for sharing your real estate journey and also capitalizing, best and challenging experiences and personal side. Thank you very much.
Yeah, well, thank you, Rama, for having me on. Really appreciate you. And thanks everyone for listening in. I hope inspire you a little bit and go out there, get into this business, and become an expert at capital raising. It'll make your life so much easier.
Sure. Thank you.